The couple sat at the edge of the well while their 6-year-old son played in the distance. The father had a worried look on his face.
We simply cannot sell this place.
Kerry will have someone to play with. Just one portion of the grounds, Kieran.
You know why. Don't ask me again.
In rather tragic news, local authorities have discovered 3 bodies near the well of a large estate in Kildare County. The Kelleher family were found dead at 2 this afternoon, including their young son, Kerry. Police have declined to comment until further notice.
Annie Eaton stared at the email for half a minute and clenched her fists in delight. It seemed like the perfect 27th birthday gift for her husband, Jagger, who was desperate to get away from his banker job for a few days and go to the countryside. She couldn't believe how she got such an incredible getaway gift at such a discount.
Welcome to Kelleher Resorts. 96 hours of unfettered fun and relaxation to help you forget all about the stresses and the terrible air of city life. The scenery is stunning, and as the brochure showed you, the local sites are always worth a visit. We hope you enjoy your time and make unforgettable memories.
On Jagger's birthday, they started driving towards Kelleher Resorts at noon. The drive itself was unsettling, or maybe Annie was a bit on edge herself. It was raining lightly, and there was traffic, so they ended up arriving in the evening, right when the sun was setting. It was designed as an old-fashioned manor with a sprawling 1-kilometer drive up to the front gate. A man, dressed in all black from head to toe, was waiting to greet them. Except he didn't greet them handing over a piece of paper instead. Communication here is limited, as we want the guests to experience the property themselves. Only use the emergency number in case of true emergencies. Thank you for understanding. The first 2 days passed with incredible ease, except for Annie hearing the sound of very soft footsteps at 2 in the afternoon. That night, she dreamed of a little boy who was running around the house with a sad look in his eye. She didn't mention any of this to Jagger, as she didn't want to bother him with something that was just in her head. On the 3rd night, the resort suddenly plunged into pitch black darkness. But the eerie sounds that followed really spooked her. Annie tried to call the emergency number, but was only met with a ringing tone.
Hello? Help! She tried to scream, but her voice came out as barely a whisper.
Annie stumbled around the house in a blind panic. The resort was enormous, and she and Jagger had only confined themselves to the 2 outer rooms so far. Then came the voice. It was a child, almost certainly, but when he spoke, he didn't call for help.
Can you play with me? I just want someone to play with. Just for a few minutes.
Even though Annie couldn't speak, she found herself tearing up. Turning on her emergency flashlight, she tried to seek out Jagger. He was at the opposite end of a very large room, most likely built as a dining room. Her eyes said, "Let's follow the child's voice," and Jagger nodded assent. They went past 2 doors and 2 equally empty rooms before they heard soft footsteps right behind them.
Are you looking for me?
It seemed to be the same voice they had heard a few minutes ago, except this one sounded older. Annie turned around slowly and screamed. He was a boy, no older than 12, but one side of his face was dipped in blood. It was the boy from her dream. His voice, when he next spoke, was even stranger, and he seemed to physically shoot up.
When you speak, I groan. Did my daddy not tell you?
Annie took long, deep breaths, and Jagger could feel his heart thumping in his chest.
Can you take us to your daddy?
The boy, almost as tall as Jagger now, turned around and started to walk. Annie followed behind with unsteady footsteps. The boy brought them to the man in black they had met when they first arrived. The caretaker. Wordlessly, he handed over a pen drive to the couple and set up a projector. Annie and Jagger watched with rapt attention. It was the same house they were in, but this was more than 10 years ago. A 6-year-old boy was playing in the garden in the same spot the married couple were sitting. He spoke to nobody in particular.
Can you play with me? I just want someone to play with. Just for a few minutes.
For a few seconds, the footage showed what must have been the boy's parents. They were talking about something, but the words were distorted.
The caretaker. Jagger said, his voice shaking in fear now.
The film cut to a well, and to their horror, Annie and Jagger saw Carrie stumble dangerously close to the edge. There was a scream of a boy and a sickening splash as the end credits started rolling. A long disclaimer at the end began, word by word, on the screen.
Yes, this ended the way you think it did. Your faces tell the story. Little Carey died, and all he wanted was a playmate. His parents died too, and no, they didn't kill him. They too were murdered. Everyone who has watched this film has cried. And everyone who has watched this film has died.
The last word came out of the blue as Annie and Jagger stared at each other in horror.
The caretaker finally spoke, and his voice was like ice. We said you would enjoy yourself. We never promised you would live to tell the tale.
Jagger heard Annie's almost muted scream, and within seconds, Jagger's vision went black too, with blood spilled copiously into the late November air.
Can I play with them now, Daddy?
Okay. When you get bored, I will bring someone new.
This is an original story by Chills, Thrills, and Blood Spills. If you like the story, please hit the like button and subscribe for more stories like this.